Plus one is the minimum. They can go higher, but it eats into your height limit. So if you go plus six, we're still going to measure height for plus five. So that's just the end of your floor ceiling heights.
Within plus one to plus five, you're still capping at this and then this number. So people choose to go lower, get the core floors a little bit higher.
No. If they go BFE plus one, that doesn't give them extra floor ceiling. We will measure their allowable height.
Oh, it doesn't go off of the plus five.
Correct.
It goes off of the plus one.
Correct.
Okay.
Whatever you choose, we're going to measure your height limit.
Right, so that's just an example of what it would be if, right, but
This is only for single family home with no understory.
right.
With the understory, they can have the first.
I can't see, so. What is your finished color floor? Plus one, you're going to max 38 and you're obviously, your floors are.
Well, the max enough to. Okay. All right. Oh. All right. I think we're ready to get rolling.
Okay. Good morning and welcome to part 2 of the September meeting of the Design Review Board. Thank you very much for your patience in coming back, and we will work hard to be respectful of your time. And thank you to the members of the board and to staff for coming back a second time this month. So we have some housekeeping, some technical issues today, but Rogelio will explain.
Okay, so the chambers, we will not have the ability to display presentations over the screens today in City Hall. So if you are online and you would like to see the PowerPoint presentations that are available, you can view those from the city's online agenda, where you can view everything that's on the Design Review Board agenda today, which are 2 items, and the PowerPoint presentations. You can get the agenda by going to www.miamibfl.gov/city-hall/city-clerk/meetings-and-agendas. And when you get to that page, you can click Design Review Board Special Meeting, September 19, 2025 at 9 a.m., and you can view the HTML agenda, and that will allow you to view all of the plans, all of the application documents, and the presentations that typically would have been shown today at City Hall. So so that's the way you can follow along with us. We have printed copies here in the chambers of those presentations. So with that, we can go ahead and get started. I'm going to read the city attorney's intro on their behalf today. So if you are appearing on behalf of a business, a corporation, or another person, you need to register as a lobbyist with the city clerk's office. If you haven't registered yet, you should register before you speak to the board. You don't have to register as a lobbyist if you're speaking only on behalf of yourself and not on any other party. Or if you're testifying as an expert witness, providing only scientific, technical, or other specialized information or testimony in this public meeting. Or if you're appearing as a representative of a neighborhood association without any compensation or reimbursement for your appearance, to express support of or opposition to any item. Expert witnesses and representatives of neighborhood associations shall, prior to appearing, disclose in writing to the city clerk their name, address, and the principal on whose behalf they are communicating. If you are an architect, attorney, or employee representing an applicant or an objector, you must register as a lobbyist. These rules apply whether you are appearing in favor of or against an item, encouraging or arguing against its passage, defeat, modification, or continuance. If you would
Thank you,
like to...
Rogelio, and
sorry, go ahead.
This is Nick Kalergis from the City Attorney's Office. I can swear everybody in at this time. If you're going to be testifying today, please raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, and let me announce, if you're following on TV and you'd like to participate virtually, I'm going to read the Zoom link and the phone number that you can call to participate in the meeting. So the Zoom link is https://miamibeachfl-gov.zoom, ZOOM.us/J/82273941924. On a phone number in the US, you can dial 1-301-715-8592 or toll-free number 888-475-4499 and enter the webinar ID, which is 822-7394-1924. And you can participate online via Zoom when we open the public hearing for each item. So with that, I can take attendance. So we have 5 members present, and I'll just go through a roll call just for the record. Ms. Butacavoli? Here. Mr. Diffenderfer is absent. Ms. Skiller-Nelson?
Here.
Mr. Lester?
Here.
Ms. Lewin?
Here.
Mr. Meshberg?
Here.
And Mr. Paez is absent. And so with that, Madam Chair, if you'd like, we can proceed to the first
Okay.
item.
The new application, DRB 25-1113, 409 East San Marino Drive.
This application has been filed requesting the DRB approval for the construction of a new two-story residence, including one or more waivers to replace an existing residence.
Okay, so this is an application for a single-family home. It is in the RS3 zoning district, has a lot size of 12,855 square feet, so it exceeds the minimum lot size required for this district. The applicant is proposing a home that complies with all of the zoning regulations. However, they are seeking a waiver for an additional 3 feet of height. So the height limit in this district, as of right, is 24 feet. The applicant is seeking a waiver to be able to develop the home at 27 feet. This is, as you may be aware, recently the code was amended so that the extra 3 feet that used to be treated as a variance are now treated as a design waiver, so that anyone seeking extra height for the home has to come before the design review board for design review approval. So this home is being designed in a contemporary style. It is a large lot. It is complies with all the setback requirements. The extra height, given the size of the lot, should not create any negative impacts for the neighbors. We don't think that it's going to create an overbearing sense for the adjacent properties. The property does have significant landscaping along the perimeter to help protect the neighbors from any potential impacts. So staff is supportive of the granting of the waiver. From an architectural perspective, the home is, as I said, it was designed in a contemporary architectural style, highlighted by curved projecting eaves and floor slabs on the front and rear elevations. The home is clad in a travertine stone on its main elevations, and has expansive glazing along the second floor and the front elevation, which contrasts with the more brutal ground floor finish, and on both floors of the rear elevation. The footprint of the home tapers outward because it is sort of an irregular lot from the rear. It tapers outwards toward the rear, following the side property lines. There's also a central courtyard that breaks up the interior of the massing. So staff does recommend that the application be approved, subject to the conditions in the attached draft order, and we can turn it over to the applicant.
Good morning. Matt Amster with the law firm of Burke, Howardell, Fernandez, Larkin, and Tapanes. Offices at 200 South Biscayne Boulevard in Miami. Here today representing 409 East San Marino Drive, LLC. And with us, the owners are on Zoom, David and Ilana. David was here last week in person, and unfortunately, we were right at the end and couldn't be heard. But And while they couldn't be here in person, they are monitoring on Zoom. With me today, I have Cody Thaman and Dane Thaman, our architects, and Matt Lewis, landscape architect. I have passed out because we have reached out to our nearby neighbors, and so we have one signed letter of support from the neighbor to the north. And with that, again, if you want to follow along in your hard copy that you have in front of you, go ahead, Cody.
Good morning, Cody Thaman, Thaman Architecture and Design, 2414 Coral Way, Miami, Florida. We really wanted to look at this home and have a lot of emphasis on the northern view to the open bay. With being the pie-shaped lot, we wanted to kind of take advantage of that North Bay view. So you'll see when I present, you'll see some of the interesting things we did in order to achieve that. Currently, there's an existing two-story home that is on the lot. The grade is actually up pretty high, so our grading that we're proposing for the site is going to be at a similar location that it is now. And the size of that home, that two-story home with the hip roof is already pretty large. You can see that there in the aerial images that we have. There's also a significant amount of dense landscaping on either side of the house. Both of those perimeter landscaping are on the adjacent properties. There's almost no landscaping on the lot now. So all of the landscaping that we're going to be doing will be on our lot and adding in quite a bit of landscaping to our lot in addition to the adjacent properties as well. You can see there, you can see that image from the aerial, all that landscaping down both sides. We have the existing survey here where you can see the footprint of the existing home. So there are,
Just because of if you could, it would be helpful for us to follow along if you could tell us what page. As you
okay.
go from one to the
Sorry
other,
about
or
that.
have Matt as
I'll
your
show
Vanna
you.
White.
Yep. So on page 6, we have the overlay of the survey with the existing home. And in red, we've kind of shown the non-conformings to the side setbacks. There's also an existing cabana structure, which is non-conforming and really pushed to the east side in the rear yard. So we would be demolishing the existing home and demolishing that obtrusive structure there at the rear yard. And then if you go to page 7, you can see our site plan, obviously compliant with all the front, rear, and side setbacks. So our side setbacks will be getting larger. Also, the massing of the home itself has been more centralized on the lot. We do have the one-story garage, which is the smaller element, goes closer to the street. But you can see we have a dimension about 76 feet from the street to the second floor volume. So the main mass of the home is really centralized on that lot, as well as having that big open rear yard space. You can also start to see how we've carved into the home a little bit with courtyards and landscape that start to integrate into the structure. On page 8, we have the context elevation of the existing homes, as well as a conceptual rendering. So you can see how that home fits very well into the context of the neighborhood. Tried to show us that really dense landscaping as accurately as we possibly could, just to show that that home fits well within the context and works in the area that it's proposed. On page 9, sorry, the page numbers are a little bit obscured by the binding there, but you can see on page 9 we have the context renderings of the existing home versus the proposed home below that. So you can kind of see how that fits in. We have quite a bit of dense landscaping at the front, so we do want it to feel like a very private, nice home. So there will be quite a bit of landscape at the front. We have Matt Lewis here, our landscape architect, can speak to that a little bit more. On page 10, we have the existing tree survey, and you can see all of those trees that are on the adjacent lots. And then when you flip to the next page, we still have all those trees kept on both sides, and then all the dense landscaping that will be added to our lot, as well as how we have the courtyards at the south and at the rear of the home, and at the entry that kind of peel into the house and break down that massing. On page 12, we again have that context rendering, and we can quickly flip to page 13. So this is the rear view of the home. We are requesting the 3-foot height waiver, but what we've done is to really slim out the architecture and make it feel lighter. We've projected these eaves at a lower elevation from the maximum, and then we have the primary bedroom is actually at a 45-degree angle that floats and really captures that north view. And we like that eave look because it adds a lot of movement, depth to the architecture, as well as thins it out. And then the natural curvature that's created by that angle, I think, creates a really exciting form and a little bit reminiscent of the wave for the owner's house on the water. You can also see in that image how those courtyards start to puncture and grow into the building itself. On page 14, you can see a little bit more of the materiality. We have the warm travertine that acts as the base for the home. Really beautiful material, and those walls are actually going to be curved in some locations, so it really softens the architecture a lot more inviting. The materiality, we have the lime-based plaster, which is an off-white, more textured material. So the material palette itself is a very muted, sophisticated, warm, elegant tone that really fits into the landscape. And we do have all those materials there in front of you on the floor, if you can see them. On page 15, we have the front rendering. So you can see how we have that garage volume. That's that lower slung one-story volume that pushes out to the street. And then the second floor of that is significantly set back. A lot of the travertine is on that front elevation. And we've actually stripped a lot of the landscape from the front out of this rendering just so you can see the house. But the intent is that that will be very densely landscaped. And on page 16, we have another shot just so you can see up the drive corridor, the family's entrance to the home through the front door. And now we kind of have those carves and that play of the eaves that kind of swing over and create these courtyard elements into the home. And on page 17, we have our material palette. So we have the lime-based plaster just to warm that up so it's not just a stark white stucco. We have a dark gray color for the metal windows, which I find works with the material palette quite nice, as well as the travertine, and then we have the subtle touches of wood at the ceilings, which is a metal product. It looks the best one that I've found, but it warms up the home quite a bit. We are proposing one slight change from what the original DRB submission was, and that's simply just at the front vehicular gate. Originally, we had that flush all along the front wall, which was a little bit limiting in the height. So we'd like to just push the vehicular gate back into the property a little bit so we can add a little more height, a little more security for their children. And we're looking to do that in the same wood that is in the home. And that completes our presentation, if you have any questions.
Thank you very much.
Just if I could, a few more points. This home, as Cody was saying, grade today is already up pretty high. It is an older home, so as a new home, we do need to address freeboard, and we are at 3 feet of freeboard. So rather, I think it's what, instead of 9 is a base flood,
12,
so we're at
correct.
12. However, this house would be much taller if it had an understory, which we decided the owners did not want, so that helps to keep the home, again, in context with the neighborhood. And in addition, there's no roof deck at all, no rooftop access. Again, that helps to, maintain the height. So from that perspective, with these great landscape buffers, we feel we have a resilient home that isn't overly tall, that's in context with the neighbors, has, good privacy for everyone. In fact, we're essentially doubling the landscaping. It's very weird to have a property that doesn't have much, if any, landscaping today. So it's, and with 10-foot setbacks. Great opportunity for Matt Lewis to put in great landscaping to help this owner and the adjacent owners. So from that, we agree with all of staff's conditions, and we respectfully request approval of design and the height waiver.
Great. Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak? Anyone here?
If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand if you'd like to speak. I see no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, great. I'm now going to close the public portion and open it up to the board for discussion. Who would like to start? Thoughts? Do you want to start?
Sure. I mean, overall, the design looks beautiful to me, and I like the heavy use of landscaping because most of the properties, some existing properties don't have a heavy use of the foliage, so
Right.
I definitely applaud the use of urban landscaping and doubling it, so.
Thank you. Matt did a great
Beautiful job, yeah.
Just one question. On page 16, you show the driveway has pavers that appear to be light in color. So on page 17, it shows a different type of paver. Is that in the back, the permeable pavers that you show on page 17?
So if you see on the site plan where we show the overflow parking location, it's simply a little bit of pervious. We're gonna have they will be pervious pavers, but they won't have the turf block look. So it's simply so that the owner can park an additional car or just helping with the pull out from the side facing garage. Because it is, with the pie-shaped lot, it is pretty tight there at the front. So on the site plan, you can see there's a small portion which is significantly set back where we are proposing some reinforced turf block with some grass to infill. And we wanted, the owners to be able to use that space to park and pull out, but at the same time, I still like the look of it being not just monolithic pavers. I like it to still feel like landscape and lush.
Okay, so those permeable pavers are in the overflow,
Correct.
okay.
Mhm.
And then,
Oh, wait. So, because that's a question too. So the image, I guess, this one. So this is the pavers for the whole entire driveway.
Correct.
Overflow, and that's what's depicted. That's this.
No, that would be
No.
the more the permeable paver, and I think,
That's
Matt,
the
you have some
overflow
additional
paver.
pictures. That would be
So there's going to be
set,
two different
correct.
pavers.
But they'll be in a very similar look, similar vein. It'll essentially be more of a spacing between them to put reinforced grass to have landscape grow
Okay.
through them.
I see, and that just didn't necessarily translate into the rendering.
It might at the back, it just might be hard to see.
Yeah.
Let me
Okay.
see if,
where is that main paver shown? I'm sorry.
main paver, do we have an image of our main paver? Is this in their presentation? We do have in the original DRB submission, we have the two separate pavers on the landscape plans.
Oh, okay,
So that's,
okay, maybe further
yeah,
on.
these two, yeah, I can show
Okay.
you those.
Okay, and then, Rogelio, just one note on, I see. What page is that? No, over here.
but this is not in the
Oh, oh,
Sorry.
okay.
For printing purposes, we decided not to reprint everything.
Uh-huh, okay.
So this is the main paver.
Paver.
and Here's the overflow.
Overflow parking paver.
Turf
Okay,
supported type of
thank you.
Could I similarly ask, in the backyard, but right that fronts the pool, is that just turf or is that the pavers as well?
Between the pool and the walkways, that will be
Yes.
actual lawn.
That, okay.
Yeah, that'll be the kids' play area.
Is that real grass or is that
Yeah, that's
turf?
the intent, is to have real
Oh,
grass, yes.
Wow, yeah, that's very unique with right butting up against the pool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, Myra, sorry, were you finished or I meant to?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add, I don't know if he knows, but the original owner of this current house, Carlos Gill and his family, he built it for his family and his three sons, and one of the sons ended up being a land use attorney
Yes, he was at our
that worked
firm.
with all of you.
Yes,
So it's coming around.
I know. I spoke to him about this. Fond memories.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I mean, the pavers was my question and then the pool lawn, but it's a beautiful project.
Thank you.
I love how it sits within the land and it really works well with the landscaping. So yes, I'm in support.
Thank you.
Adam, do you have any comments?
No, I agree. I think it's very nice and I'm for it. I had one question for staff. Would your opinion change if the lot size was smaller?
Yes, likely. If the lot size were the minimum allowed in this district, and there were smaller setbacks, our opinion may change. Maybe we would be supportive of the waiver, but we would ask them for more setbacks at the upper level or something to that effect. But I think given the scale of this lot, it works well with the proposed height.
I agree. And thanks for having the neighbor's signature. I think that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I agree. I think that this is lovely. You did a good, very thoughtful job relating to the site and the demands of the owners and all of that. So thank you. I also I love the tones and the travertine. It's very refreshing. I had a suggestion that I wanted to throw out there, and if any other fellow board members wanted to weigh in. And it actually had to do with, so I think one of the things that is so beautiful about this design is this flow. And that, which, just seems so appropriate for a waterfront home. And I like that you had said that some of the corners, I'm assuming that that's in the back, that those are going to be the curved windows as opposed to, did you say that some of the windows would be curved?
The windows won't be curved. We have one small portion of railing that's curved, but yeah, not
okay.
the windows, because that's
Yeah, no, that's
expensive.
pricey. Yeah, anyway, so, but I think it was in the original maybe plans that you submitted, and it could have also been a rendering translation issue, but if you look at this page. So I noted in your materials that, it's hard to,
It's page 18.
page 18. On page 18, there were more renderings like this. The aluminum finish is much, much lighter. And I think there were some other again, I'm not sure if it was intentional. That was actually going to be one of my questions the other day of, is it the dark or is it the light? I see here that you've said this is, my suggestion was going to be that I actually liked the lighter color.
The
and
lighter.
the reason why was that I feel like the contrast interrupts that flow.
Okay.
And so I had just wanted to throw it out there, especially in the rear, which is not depicted here. I just wanted to sort of throw that out there to make a suggestion that I think as a way, I want to see more horizontal flow movement as opposed to static vertical.
Right.
And so that was just going to be my question.
And you feel the
suggestion.
darker feels a bit more stark and
It-
makes it pop a little bit more.
Well, and I think it interrupts it. You
Okay.
know, yeah, I think that the darker just sort of interrupts that movement and just, it's not, I wasn't sure if the
Yeah.
homeowners had a preference.
The owners
or
definitely
what.
have a preference, and we went back and forth with a lot of different renderings to get the color correct.
Wanted.
It's a very challenging thing to do, get the exact sun hitting the metal, having it actually look like it's going to look. So we explored that quite a bit. I would be open to working with staff and exploring that a bit more.
I mean, it's not something that, I would hold up the project with. And again, at the end of the day, this is a beautifully designed, it's not. And if the homeowners have a very strong preference, I just wanted to convey from my professional opinion that if the intent of the project, if the intent of the design is to really showcase the flow, and I think that the horizontal lines are more interesting than the vertical.
Okay.
So that was just a professional opinion.
Yeah, we'll speak with the owners and maybe I
Something
can
to think about.
can
I don't know
convince them.
if anybody else has any other thoughts, but I just thought that would be a nice addition.
Think about the metal finish that's next to
Yeah,
the
all the
glass there.
mullions.
I mean, the actual sample is a little more on the
Right.
softer champagne than the rendering, which is good. And
And it varies very much by the light, how it hits.
Yeah.
If it's in shadow, it looks darker. If the sun's directly on it, it looks a lot lighter.
Which one is it?
I thought, Sarah, you were going to talk about like the edge of the overhang starting to soften,
Oh.
soften edges and corners a little bit more for
This,
the house.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's silver. Yeah, I mean, again, I would go with like I said, I like the flow, and anything that's sort of strictly vertical that's interrupting that. I know that it's hard. It's so much easier to contrast colors than it is to sort of match them. So, and I do think it is interesting to have the different, because you want, the quality of the material, the travertine is so much different than aluminum. Right, and even the one below, which is going to be darker too because of the shadow. Anyway, that was just my, what is your intent? What's your story? We do get a lot of projects that you don't really understand what the architect is saying from them, but this one definitely has a point of view. And changing that detail a little, I think we'll be able to express your point of view a little bit more strongly. But again,
We can get samples, we can present them to staff, and I think.
yeah,
we'll be
I mean,
open
it's
to-
something, the other question I had, you'd mentioned that wood, the wood, it's that the Cibo Oku, that's the wood product?
Yeah,
Okay, that was just, and that's gonna be under the eaves.
Is that wood or aluminum?
it's an aluminum with the faux finish and actually has the texture to it. So
Oh,
it's not
nice.
as very intense fabrication process. It comes from Japan, and it's the best that I've
Nice.
seen. We've used it a few times. It's beautiful.
That,
It's really for a maintenance thing. You know, the wood down here tends to get crushed, so a lot of times we will put them on soffits so they're not getting direct sun, and just not having to come and sand and treat the wood for the owner is often helpful.
yeah. I also had a question that was more regarding the height waiver. I do appreciate the elevations that you added, you know, with the, if there was a roof deck, if there was an understory, I think that that's helpful. Is there any hardship related with this waiver, or is it just sort of personal preference? You wanted more height in the interior?
When you talk about hardship, that's typically and used for variances. So this is a design waiver, and so that's where, you know, the entire thought process of, you know, your relation to your neighbors, the geometry of the lot, you know, where your first story, second story, and your setbacks are. But I think the beautiful thing that Cody has designed here is those lower eaves, right? The lower eaves themselves are helping to be below the actual rooftop so that it helps to, from a design perspective, right, minimize the scale and massing of the home all by itself. And then you have the additional elements of, while we're using some freeboard for resiliency, we're not using the maximum freeboard. We're not going up much higher than the existing grade of the property. And then we don't have any habitable roof deck, right? So there's no additional, you know, the elevator bulkhead and railings and planters and all those things that would then add to the height of the home. We're, you know, deciding purposely not to do that. And then on top of that, you know, we have, well, on the sides of that, we have extensive landscaping. It's really wonderful that these neighbors have very tall, you know, buffers already. So having that as again, a good context for us to place this in, that's where I think that collectively, from a design perspective, because hardship is a variance standard, we're not asking for a variance. And yet some of the same type of things, you know, the non-parallel lot lines, right, wedge-shaped properties have some, you know, issues. We didn't do a home that is the same length on either side of the properties because we're trying to play with where to put the garage, you know, on all these cutouts too, I think are really beautiful for, you know, making this again a more compatible home.
When you talk about the homes adjacent to it, I think the two to the north are much lower, even though the one immediately to the north, which is 421, seems to be a newer home, but much lower. How does this compare, your proposed height of 27 feet high, compared to the home to the south, which is 421, San Marino?
Believe we have that elevation on page 8, and it does look like it's nearly 10 feet taller.
So this proposed elevation would be 10 feet taller than the home on 421?
Oh, I'm sorry, to 421 to the home to the north of us?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, that
No.
is,
The larger home on the north is about we're about 3 feet taller than that, because that, as
3
to your-
feet taller than
to
the
your
home
point, that's a
to the
newer
north.
home.
Okay. Which is a new home, yeah, because I remember it under construction. And then the two to the south, which is 409 and 405, are way lower. What is the height of the ceilings on first floor and second floor of the home?
12 feet and 11 feet. 12 feet for
Okay.
the first and 11 for the second.
Okay, so if you were to be at the same height, you would not, at 27, you would be at the same height as the house to the north, which is 421, and you still would have nice ceiling heights on both floors.
You're saying if we were to drop and not go to freeboard plus 3,
No, if you, instead of 27,
we went to 24?
you went to 24, which is the maximum flat roof height. You wouldn't need the variance.
The
And
waiver.
you would still, the waiver, I'm sorry, and you would still have sufficient ceiling height on both the first floor and second floor, because you currently have 11 and 12.
Correct. Yeah, we would be losing a significant amount of ceiling height by doing that.
Yeah, but you would be comparable to the other home. This is a very small area in San Marino.
And we have reached out to these neighbors. We spoke directly with the neighbor to the north, which is the newer home, and they were supportive of our waiver, and that's who we have the letter of support from today. So they are in agreement with our proposed height.
I just, personally, there's a reason for the maximum of 24. And it doesn't seem like it's going to alter the design except for the ceiling height inside the home.
Which is
On the first
significant.
floor and second floor, so instead of having ceilings of 11 and 12, you may have 10 and 11, or 10 and 10, I don't know, something along those lines, which still leaves a nice ceiling height. But I don't think that it's going to affect the outside design, which is beautiful, by not granting this waiver.
Are you
There was
also,
one more, just going back to the previous question of the windows. I actually, in contrast with her, I always liked the darker window frames, mullions, because to me, it just looks more elegant. But that's a matter of taste, and I think at the end of the day, the owners are going to live there, so it's really what their preference may be.
There is one element to the design. We do have the second floor slab, which is continuous with the roof elevation height. That is really at that higher elevation because we're utilizing that eave, that overhang above the garage to totally conceal our condensing units, our generator, everything. So that's all totally tucked into a little nook. And if we were to lose that 3 feet of height, that would
And where
potentially
is
become
that?
exposed. That is on the second floor plan above the garage.
What page are we?
Let me see.
I know it's gonna be a lot harder to work with overhead MEPs if you lose that
Oh,
3
yeah,
feet.
definitely,
So I wouldn't-
definitely.
I wouldn't want to lose that 3 feet if I were you.
Yeah.
but
All the
personally.
way to page 26.
I was actually wondering too, the garage was the one structure that did seem, and again, that's really, it seems like the one
What
thing
page?
that you're gonna see
Page
from the street.
26, it's the roof.
The garage did seem
It's the roof plan.
higher.
Right, and that's because this is
It's,
an atypical way of, shielding and screening your, all your mechanical equipment, right? There is some flexibility to put it in the side yards. We have decided not to do that and instead put it on top of the
So
garage.
where is the mechanical
So on the left
equipment?
side, the mechanical equipment is on essentially the roof of the garage, but tucked away and hidden, which is good for screening, good for, noise reduction, all those elements. And you can see that the rest of the actually
Yeah, I
upper
see it.
roof is entirely devoid of everything, any and all, there is no increase in height above at all. Our neighbor to the north, by the way, does have a roof deck, so that adds to the mass and, habitable space up there with the railings and all. So there's nothing on our upper roof, which again helps to further streamline, this to be more compatible with the neighborhood. And then to the home to the south, that was a much older home, so built, below today's standards by probably, I'm gonna at least 3, if not 4 to 5 feet, because the age of most of the older homes, and the city is in a mode of, for resiliency purposes, raising sidewalks, raising streets. So eventually, whenever that house is redeveloped, it will also need to be much higher and therefore be much more compatible with our home, so.
So this is this is page 15. This is a rendering of the front of the home. The mechanical equipment is basically on top of this garage over here.
Correct.
Okay.
But it would not be visible from the street or any of the neighbors.
Right. So if this garage were lower, it could still have that design on the top
But
and
then you
buffer
would
it
see
from
the
the
top of the
neighbors.
mechanical equipment, which I do not like, and that would also maybe push me to have to put it onto the roof, which I would also not prefer.
how high is the
How high
ceiling
is-
in the garage
yeah.
now?
I believe it is, we have 9 feet? 8 or 9 feet. The actual ceiling height in the garage is not that tall, and we were willing to sacrifice that simply so we could conceal all of our mechanical equipment above it.
Because that garage seems to be higher than the first, it is higher than the first floor and almost as high as the second floor.
I had the same concerns, and again, I wasn't sure if it was just the angle with which the rendering was, but
Yeah, or the
that
picture.
was, and again, that's the element that is gonna be interacting.
the elevation of the land is lower, so the garage is taller, but the units are set lower, but he's trying to continue the eve from the front of the house to the back of the house. So
Right.
if we shorten the ceiling height on one,
You shorten it on the
it brings
other.
that, and
Yeah.
then the units then
Yeah.
stick up like that. So I think that's a creative way
But I-
of hiding the equipment and getting it away from the sidelines and setbacks.
We have a good section on page 30.
30?
30, yes, towards the rear of the package. So here, right, you can see on the left, you can see the garage, which itself is lower, which helps again as you approach from the street, even if there was no landscaping. But the equipment on the top, now you can see how the second floor lines up and is helpful for, you know, keeping that properly screened.
And it also explains why it
Yeah.
seemed to us that why is that
Right.
height, so.
It's also about the continuity, the waves of those curves are continuous from the main house to the garage, which if those were at a different elevation, there would be a separate element, which I think would make the architecture a bit less
What equipment are you placing on top of the garage?
condensing units and generator.
Okay, so it's the generator that's really requesting the height, because it's higher than the condensing units.
We have
Equipment per se, what,
the generator
Yeah.
will be a little bit
higher than the
taller, but
condensing
yeah, the
units.
condensing units, the newer versions have actually gotten taller as well, so the delta between those is not that
But you
significant.
have Daikin units that you can actually put against the wall, and they're
Mhm.
like the mini split condensing
Right.
units in size, and they are nowhere in, much smaller than this, which is what a lot of people are doing now because of the bulkiness of a regular condensing unit like this one, of putting it on a side setback where they cannot put it, or putting it in the front of a lawn or the back of a lawn. But it's the generator. I just, personally, I don't see, I understand what you're trying to do in keeping the same line above the garage as you have above the first floor. But you're very creative, and I think it can be arranged with a lower, without the 3 additional feet that are being requested.
And are you concerned that the additional feet will have a negative impact on on the older homes?
But, yes, well.
at this
I-
point, it is
On the older
taller.
on the older homes that are there, and also across the street, and in that neighborhood, that corner there, that turn is very tight. But in addition to that, there's a reason for this maximum height. And if every time, someone wants 3 more feet or 2 more feet, we grant it, I think in the design it can have been taken into account. You certainly could have had a mechanical room with the size of lot, and yet not have required this. So that's my
Hi,
thought.
my name, excuse me, my name's Matthew Lewis on the landscape side. I would just say if you, excuse me, if you looked at the landscape specs that we're promoting, which is heavily native understory trees, and then we have between 20 and 30 clear trunk palm trees that are running down the side, I'd be willing to bet that you wouldn't even see this house unless you're perhaps on the bay. We have a really beautiful layering, architecturally speaking, of landscape along the front, along the sides, and even in the back. So I think that's important when you think about the house. It's not just a house sitting on a plan like in an architecture studio, but it's sitting within a context of this very lush, dynamic, and native landscape.
And just to be clear, there is some landscaping or like some higher sort of trees or shorter trees in front of this garage that
Yes.
we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at the rendering, for example,
Yeah, because you'd said that in order to see the structure, you'd change, the rendering landscapes aren't exact.
there's a existing power line here. So we can't plant a tree here, but I mean, that's the dilemma between showing these
Right.
renderings. I mean, you want to show the architecture, but the reality is, we're gonna have green buttonwoods that sit like this. So you're gonna see like the edges of the architecture, but it's really gonna be screened not only the front, but along the sides and even the backs.
Okay, thank you.
You know, I agree with what you're saying. It's not going to be as visible from the front, obviously more visible from the back when you're in the waterway.
Yeah.
But it's the precedence we set of granting waivers for an additional 3 feet to hide equipment, mechanical equipment, that could have been taken care of in the floor plan of the house.
Actually, maybe to address
Yeah,
your
it's
concerns.
very flush. I mean, you don't really see it much from the street at all because of your landscaping, which is lovely.
Myra, I agree with you, but I think that my first question to staff was, this is an oversized lot, and I think these guys did a really nice job of a design here. And first thing I looked at was, do you need 11-foot ceilings in the bedrooms? Okay, it's gracious, it's nice. But I don't want to be like, take a foot off of this just because. So given the landscaping that Matt's talking about and the design, I don't want to set a precedent through just throwing 3 feet out. And that's why if this was a regular lot with a house that nobody designed well and they were trying to max it out and there wasn't any architectural creativity to it, I would think differently. But I don't know. I feel like there's been thought to this. Again, 11 feet is a lot, but I don't, 10 feet for a bedroom is fine. But I don't think, I'm okay with what they're asking for, in my opinion.
I have a question that I'm now going to request that I'm going to direct at Adam, and you're going to have comments about it, but please refrain. I want Adam's professional opinion. I was actually going to ask you that because I think that this was part of, it's not just this thing over the garage, but in general, what seems to be what ceiling heights do you prefer? First story, second story? What seems reasonable as an architecture professional?
For me, on the ground level, a 12-foot open space, and these spaces aren't that big, is nice. A 10-foot is, I wouldn't want less than 10 feet. And on a bedroom, this house, I wouldn't want 9-foot ceilings. So given the 3 feet, if we're taking a foot off of the ground level, we're bringing that to 11, and then we're taking the 2 feet off of the 11 feet. I don't think it's compromising the integrity of the house. Will it still be gracious and nice? But I think they're just over what I would be. They're going for it. Yeah, they're just over it, right?
And then what is your professional opinion on the height of a garage?
From the interior or for the exterior?
The interior.
For the interior, you definitely need at least 9 feet for a garage to get the doors open, to get storage and things like that. So they're just at that for the interior. Otherwise, the door comes down and it gets cramped. 9 is minimum.
May I add one more?
This is helpful because it's something that it comes up a lot with these homes. And I personally have always wanted some guidance as to what seems appropriate, especially because we get asked for these height waivers and that's.
And probably Cody would agree with me, but this is indoor outdoor living. So on the ground level, we want the height to extend to the outside. We don't want to be outside and be sitting under something low. The airflow isn't that nice, and then the ground is sloping down to the seawall, and we want the house to open up like this. So that's why, again, these aren't giant rooms either. So my opinion is, you don't necessarily need 11 feet in the bedrooms, but that downstairs level is okay.
This is a house that is proposed at 6,400 square feet, so it's not small by no means in unit size.
If I may add, the house to the north, which is on a larger lot, while new, did come in for a waiver. They actually were granted a 2-foot waiver, And the resiliency rules, right, being above with freeboard wasn't yet in effect at the time. So that's the majority of the reason why that home
Is
is
3 feet lower.
is lower than ours.
Okay.
So, but if they were to go in today, you know, they would have come here similarly and
Mm-hmm.
obviously had been granted that waiver for similar reasons, I'm sure,
Yeah.
to, you know, have the
And
home
I-
size breathe appropriately.
Yeah, I appreciate what you're saying, and I understand that. I have issues twofold. In a 6,400 square foot home, I think there could have been space allocated for mechanical room, to house equipment. Be it the compressors and the generator, or what have you. I also, I don't see where this house is gonna be elevated. It's not gonna be at ground level, so even on the ground floor in the back, you're gonna be higher than the waterway behind you, the canal, and you'll see, the waterway behind you, because you'll be at a much higher, or at some amount of higher, flooring, but you'll also be looking into the homes on the other side of the canal are gonna be facing you, so that's, also something to consider. And my concern is just the precedent that we set of continuing to grant waivers and variances. But in this case, a waiver when in fact there is enough space in this lot and enough square footage in this unit size that a mechanical area could have been accommodated.
I kind of think that you're, I don't know, I disagree. I mean, I think that you're maybe giving a more of a variance standard here. I feel like there's leeway here for us to waive this, and so this is this wiggle room, and sort of like Adam said, just the way that they've approached the massing and the eaves, bringing it down, even on the garage, like the way the landscaping is falling, it's everything is bringing this back down to earth. So like you said, they put thought into it. I think that this site specifically, kind of the larger lot size is an appropriate instance where we could grant a waiver, especially where the applicant's been very creative. So I'm okay with it. That's just my opinion on this.
I will also say too, I do appreciate the fact that there is no roof deck on this. And, I mean, that's something that we see all the time, and that puts me, each time when we're talking about height, like, that's the thing, it's like, okay, you want this waiver, and now you want a roof deck, or even having it, and that really, and they're always set back, et cetera, but I really appreciate it, I really appreciate projects that don't have roof decks, and the terms of, with the mechanical, you know, not only is it the additional height on the first floor, but it's also the additional 3 feet, it's the additional height on this, in the rest of the structure, it's not just the mechanical. So what he's saying is the design is sort of dependent on these heights, the design throughout, not just the mechanical. I understand what you're saying, I see what, and I see what Laura's saying. I was gonna say this, you know, there's also, on the one hand, I would like to encourage people to not have these roof decks and to minimize the height and the impact that way, and this project is achieving that. 3 feet, you know, there's room for wiggle room. We could decide it could just be a 2-foot waiver. You know, my also big concern overall, regardless, is that this house is going to be even taller than the new house next door that was already granted waivers. And I know that the codes have changed, et cetera, but that's also something to think about, because there are still quite a few homes, and this happens all the time, that are shorter on the other side. And so how do you make this building that's now going to be probably the tallest one in this area, how do you make it compatible with the rest of the neighbors, which seems to be Myra's big concern. So
It's also
I
the
was-
neighbors across the canal, the other island before them.
So, I mean, I don't know if that's something that maybe we could say, we'll grant you, you know, a 2-foot waiver, or, you know, whatever. It is in our purview to be able to say yes, no, how, you know, a variation, like there has to be a compromise. And if we just were to give it a 10-foot ceiling and you know, on the second floor, still has that luxury feel to it. But, you know, and from the outside, I do very strongly believe that every inch matters, and it is some impact. 1 foot does make a difference, especially when something is so high to begin with. So that's my thoughts on this.
Rogelio, there's 5 of us here. Do they need a 5 vote?
Waivers only require 4 votes.
Okay, so it seems I'm the only one opposing this, so, and it's not fair to them, because they were here last time and there was a whole board. So if I'm the only one opposed, they can still, it seems it can pass with my other board members here. So I think I've expressed my concerns, I don't need to reiterate them, so. And I just did not want them to be penalized because we had to come today and have a much smaller board. Thank you.
So maybe I can direct members of the board to make a motion, knowing that we can deny the waiver, we can grant it in full, we can grant it partially, whatever that is, whoever wants to make a motion.
I was gonna say a motion to grant the full waiver for 3 feet.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Lester, second by Ms. Lewin. That's motion to approve. All those in favor?
Do you want to do a roll call?
We can do, oh, yes, that's probably best, yes. Ms. Butagavoli,
Sorry. No?
Ms. Giller Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Lester,
Yes.
Ms. Lewin,
Yes.
Mr. Meshberg.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I should also, and maybe we should have included this, to discuss with staff or examine the lighter shade.
Yes,
For the
correct. We
audience.
will do that. Yep.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I do really appreciate your arguments. I think that that's very well.
Just for
Got it.
clarity, there's already a condition regarding, working with staff on the final color and design of all the specific materials, including the metal.
Oh, isn't it usually that the materials that you present to us is what stays, not a work with staff?
Subject to, well, we write the condition subject to the direction from the board, so that if you provide direction to darken it, lighten it, whatever the case may be, we follow that direction
Okay.
as we're reviewing the building permit plans.
Okay, but other than that, what they're presenting now is what you're gonna stick to? Or what you're gonna?
Well,
have them-
you've given us some direction
Right.
to analyze it and see if there's a better option, so.
Okay.
So we'll do that.
Okay, and I guess in general too, I was always going on the assumption that when applicants presented the materials board and the project was approved, it had to be those materials that were in.
That's correct, but
Presentation.
sometimes what you see in the plan is not as detailed as it is once the actual building permit comes in. So we want to make sure that when they do come in for the building permit, that it does match, that it does in fact match what was presented to the
We're
board.
talking about the color of the mullions, the window frames?
I was
Yeah.
talking about all the finishes.
All
in
the
general.
finishes.
In general, yeah.
In general.
We make sure that it follows what was presented to the board.
Yeah, I think in general, it needs to follow
Yeah.
this, because we're here for design, and if it changes dramatically, then obviously it would be a
Yeah.
different design. Rogelio, page 2 of the memo. The amount of the height proposed structure says 30 feet, I think it should be 27, right?
I believe that's a typo.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Right above that, it says
Yeah.
Yes.
27. I think that was.
Yes, yeah, and the order is correct. The order does say, I think it's correct the way I read it anyways.
Yeah, the order has it properly. It says 27 feet above
Yes.
DFE.
Right, well, we'll make that
Yeah,
correction.
the order D1A says it's a 3-foot waiver shall be approved for a flat roof height of 27. Okay,
I
And
apologize
that's
for that.
as per our drawings.
We had 20 reports this month, plus 5 for BOA. We were,
that's all?
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Okay, and now, finally, thank you for your patience. DRB 25-1117, 8101 Collins Avenue.
This application is requesting design review approval for the construction of a new single-story community information center, Miami Beach Log Cabin, building with an exterior patio to be located in a vacant area with the North Beach Oceanside Park.
okay, so this is an application being proposed by the city This is to create a log cabin within North Beach Oceanside Park, which used to be North Shore Open Space Park, I believe. The name changed recently. So this is essentially paying homage to the original log cabin structure that used to exist in the West Lots. That structure had to be dismantled in 2017. A lot of the pieces of that structure were kept in storage, the logs, the chimney, and several other elements were kept in storage. The structure was an unsafe structure. It could no longer stand, so that's what the city did and preserved and kept the pieces in storage. So this is an application to create a new log cabin within the park. The log cabin is being designed in a similar fashion to the original. However, it will have an open terrace along its perimeter that I believe the original log cabin did not have. As part of this new log cabin, they'll be reusing the chimney and several of the wood elements that existed in the prior log cabin to create architectural accents, to create furniture on the interior, to pay homage to that structure. Additionally, in the interior of the structure, they're planning on providing elements to talk about the history of the original log cabin structure. So you can see the images, a standard log cabin structure. It's going to have a stone chimney in the center. The roof will consist of a dark gray seamed metal roof panels. They're very compatible with the design of the structure. The structure is going to have to be raised a little bit, so there's going to be a stone wall along the perimeter, and there will have to be some ramping and stairs to get up to the level of the log cabin. But they're being designed in a fashion that is compatible with this style of architecture. The log cabin structure is intended to be used as a community gathering space, and staff does recommend that the application be approved, subject to the conditions in the draft order. I will note, yesterday the City Commission did refer on the consent agenda a discussion item to the Neighborhoods Committee, so that they can discuss the location and if there should be any changes to the log cabin. If that happens, if the City Commission decides that this is not the way they want to go, there's going to have to be a new application for the log cabin structure wherever that may be. So at this point, we're just considering the design of the log cabin at the location as preserved. If that location has to change, we'll see another application come before the board. So with that, we can turn it over to the applicant, and we have, as I said, we have copies of the presentation before, so we can follow along.
Hello, good morning. How are you? My name is Evelyn. I'm representing BA Architects. I have with me here the architect of record, Robert Draper, and the city of Miami Beach. You want to talk?
No, go ahead first.
Okay. We have here the landscape architect, middle leg, Nelson Perez, for us to present. So if you can turn to page 3. So here we can see on this slide the original city of Miami Beach log cabin condition. The original log cabin was built in 1934 and it served as a community asset and symbolized the North Beach historical beginnings. But due to life safety reason, it was dismantled in 2017. The original log cabin had approximately 1,200 square feet of total area. It also included wood finished floors, wood interiors, chimney located in the center of the building, which will be used in the new proposed log cabin. And also it has a roof-type wood framing with asphalt fiberglass roof shingles. In the following slide, you're gonna see some of other images of the original log cabin condition and also of the dismantled chimney, as you can see. Following the slide number 5, these are some ideas that we're thinking of reusing the materials such as the wood logs from the original log cabin. We can use it as furniture piece, anything that has to do with interior. We wouldn't be using it anything that has to do with any structure, feature, or anything like that, because It's not structurally stable. Same thing goes for slide number 6. This is some ideas that we can use, the wood logs. On slide number 7, here we're gonna discuss the project location. The project is located in Miami Beach, North Beach Ocean Park. This is the proposed site by the city. As you can see, these are different views from the street. And then on the right side, you're gonna see some views looking towards the vacant site. On the following slide, you're gonna have the existing park condition, how you enter the park and how you circulate around the area of the park. And also you can see towards the southern side, which you're gonna have an existing park, dog park, and also an existing restroom. So the new log cabin consists mainly of a new 1,200 square foot, one-story log cabin, and it will potentially serve as a community center, an information center, and it's inclusive, and it will showcase photos of the original log cabin. Some material selections to consider would be the materials will have to be resistant to salt spray and moisture, since it's very close to the water. And it also will have to have sealers. Also, it needs to also comply with building codes, and it needs to have, NOAs, product approval, and so forth and so on, In the following page, you're gonna have a North Beach proximity map, which shows the location of the proposed location of the log cabin and everything that goes around it. And on the following page, we zoom in more into the areas, and you can see that you have hotels, restaurants, public schools, private schools, and bus stops. If you go to the following page here, we have a more detailed survey per se of the selected location. You have around that, the proposed location, you have bike rack, picnic, and barbecue areas. You have public bathroom. This is very important. The bathrooms are about 275 feet from the actual log cabin. So that's why we don't have restrooms on the log cabin, because we have restrooms nearby. We also have authorized parking, and we have an existing door park as previously mentioned. On the following page, we have the as-built record survey previously provided to you. On the following page, we have the zoning ordinance. Here we have the required building setbacks and the proposed building setback. The site has a governmental use type of zoning. So we had to look at the zoning district around the site and add them up and do a percentage, and that's what gave us the required building setback. And then we had a proposed. On the bottom, you will see the proposed building setback, so we do meet zoning requirements. On the following page, you can find the light safety drawing. This is just us explaining you the occupancy type, how much of allowance we have for the building height. We're very, very well set on that because our building is not even 40 feet high, so we comply with that. We have a construction 5B, it's non-sprinkle, and the total building area here is 1,200 square feet, so, and allowable is 6,000 square feet, so we're very well. On the following page, we have the overall proposal for the site plan. Here we show the property line and the required setback. Here we show some of the existing trees and some of the relocated trees since as you can see in the dash area, those are the trees that are gonna be removable, and some of them are gonna be relocated around the site to provide shading for the outdoor patio area. Here at the bottom, you can see the one-story restroom. And in the general notes, we mentioned that those restrooms are 275 feet from the actual cabin, so they're walkable, at a walkable distance. The following page is mostly a tree disposition plan, showing what's was existing, what needs to be relocated, and what needs to be removed. On the following page, you have your enlarged proposed site plan. Here, we just mention the roof, slopes, the outdoor patio, what type of materiality we're gonna be using. We're gonna be using permeable pavers. We're gonna, here you can see two different ways of accessing the log cabin. You have ADA compliance ramps and also the steps towards the front. We're also proposing new bike racks over a new concrete pad on the side of the building. On the following page, you have more of a zoom-in area of the tree disposition plan. And on the following area, you have the proposed floor plans. Here, we included a finished legend schedule portraying the type of wood flooring that we're gonna be using. We're gonna be using chevron wood floorings. We're gonna be using on the exterior side, because we have a wood deck that wraps around the actual building, and that's gonna be made out of Ipe wood deck. It's very resistant to these weather conditions. And the building is gonna be structurally, it's gonna be, the exterior walls are gonna be 18 CMU walls with interior and exterior wood siding. It could be either wood log siding or it could be a composite. That's still undetermined. And we're gonna have aluminum railing for ADA compliance on the ramps and also around the building. On the following slide, you're gonna find the reflective ceiling plans. Here we're showing that we're complying with means of egress with photometrics. And also you can take a note that the light fixtures that we're using, it complies with FDWC, which is for the total compliance, amber lights. On the following slides, we have all the elevations. Here we have the north elevations, and on the side you're gonna have a table that it actually lists all the materials that we're using for the log cabin. We're using, as number one, we're using standing seam metal roof. We're a charcoal color. Number two, we're using a structural steel column with Ipe wood cladding. Number three, we're using permeable pavers. That's gonna be as you enter the building, on the exterior side and on the patio. On number four, we're using a stone cladding over 8 inches CMU wall. Number six, we're using stone cladding over 42 height cast in place concrete wall. Number seven will be aluminum railing. Number eight will be an aluminum gutter. And number nine, aluminum downspouts. Number 10, we're gonna have mechanical condensing units on the side of the building, and these ones are gonna be located over a concrete pad, and it will be also, we're proposing a wood screening around it. Number 12 will be an aluminum bike racks that is gonna be adjacent to the building. And number 13 and number 14 is your typical NOA or Florida Product Approval window glazing system and door glazing system. Number 15 will be your concrete wall and wood cladding. Number 16 will be a wood deck. Number 17, again, 42 inches high aluminum cable. And number 18, exterior marine graded light fixtures. And number 19, finally, will be your amber LED round flat top. I wanted to give you like a more of a detail because this table is gonna be repeated on the following pages, so we're just gonna go through them as we go. On the following page, you have the east elevation. It's worth noting, as you can see, we have the original log cabin chimney, as you can see. On the following slide, we have the west elevation. Here we can see how the building, how you enter and you enter the building, and then on the side you have the welcome to City of Miami Beach log cabin. So as you can see on the floor plan and on this side, you have two ways of approaching the building. You have the main, which is through the steps, And then for ADA compliance, ramp for people with disability. On the following slide, you're gonna have the proposed south elevation. For the following slide, you're gonna have the material board, which are all the materials that we're using and we're proposing to be used for this project. On the following page, you have the log cabin sections. Here we illustrate the chimney, which is the heart of this proposal of the community center for this log cabin. Also, you can see.
Can you tell us what page you're on at this point? Or what page are you looking at?
Oh,
that
on
you're-
the 27th. 27th.
27. Okay,
Yes, yes. On section 1, you can see, I'm gonna repeat, you can see the centerpiece is the chimney from the original log cabin. And then on the right side, you're gonna see a desk. That desk is actually a reception desk that would as soon as people come into the doors, it will welcome the people from the community. This reception desk, the materials that we're gonna be using are gonna be the ones from the original log cabin, the logs, the wood logs. And also you're gonna have some treatments on the interior side that we're going to, such as building furniture, that we're gonna be using these logs as well. On the following page, which
You're a
is,
bit over time. Is there more?
I mean, it's just, the following pages is mostly renderings. So it's just going through them. So you can see here on page 28, the exterior rendering in the morning. And then again, we break down the materiality of this. And then on the following page, page 30, you're gonna see a night render view. Again, if you turn the page, you're gonna see the proposed materials. And then the following pages are exterior views, southeastern elevation views, just 3D renderings. You can turn the pages as you like. So that way you have an idea of what it would look like in a three-dimensional view. On page 38, you can see the interior view of the log cabin. Here we specify that we are reusing the original log cabin chimney. And as you can see on the wall, we are showcasing original photos of the original log cabin. It's important to know that this is a place for people from the community to come and engage and meet one another. As you can see, even though the furniture is not set in stone per se, we were able to kind of classify different zones for people to engage. There's some areas that you're gonna have kids and mothers gathering around the chimney, more warm, and then in other areas you're gonna have more of a study session with a table, and in another section, if you turn the page to page 40, you're gonna have more of an isolated corner, more private setup. And that will be all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I mean, the final page will be mostly the project schedule and actually the next steps to follow. Right now, we are in the DRB presentation, and then the next page will be the 60% set of drawings, and then construction documents, permitting and bidding award will follow, and then construction, and then project completion. So that's the timeline. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have more to add about the project?
I'll wait to answer questions.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Are there any other members of the public wishing to participate?
There is nobody on Zoom.
Okay, I'm now closing the public portion, opening it up to the board for discussion. I actually had, if you don't, I'm gonna sort of set the tone with a general question that I think will also, so I have to say, as I'm going through this, I'm enjoying the design more, but I have my first impression too was the why. Like, why does the Parks Department want to build this in this location, and what are the plans to have it activated and used?
Good morning, Colette Satchel, Office of Capital Improvements, the Division Director for Design. So in 2017, after Doug Wood evaluated the building, it was determined that we had to tear it down. I think Rogelio set that up for you. In 2017, trying to figure out what to do with the building, the city commissioned Dover Cole. Dover Cole, as you know, is the primary design firm for the North Beach Master Plan. They suggested 3 locations, and all of them, of course, after several community meetings at that time, included 3 locations in North Beach Ocean Space Park. There's a resolution where those 3 locations were presented to the commission, and where those 3 locations were presented to the commission, and we were directed to locate it in that option that was closest to 82nd Street. As I think Rogelio mentioned, North Beach Ocean Space Park underwent a major renovation that was completed about 2 or 3 years ago. During that redesign, we knew that the log cabin was coming to the park, so there was a space that was anticipated, 3 different locations possibly, where the design of the park was actually, arranged around the anticipation of this location. So we're really acting on direction from the commission to place it in the park. So we're not placing it at 82nd Street because the new design kind of shifts the walkway. But 81st Street is really awesome because you have a stoplight so people can easily cross to get into the park. You have a bus stop so those who come by bus can easily access the building if they need. So the location is shifted somewhere between 81st and 82nd Street, but it aligns with a walkway and an entrance feature directly off of Collins Avenue into the park. That's how we got here with the location.
And let me ask you a question too, for the other members of the board that maybe haven't been in Miami Beach for a very long time, especially when the Geo Bond and other projects. Can you give us some history and some context? I'm wondering too, once the structure was deemed unlivable or not sturdy and taken down, why was the choice made to salvage the pieces to begin? Why wasn't it just torn down like anything else and moved on? I guess what I'm trying to understand too, because I know you've been working for the city for a long time as well, is what is the role of this log cabin? Like, why was it so important to be saved, and what's the sort of greater?
So this is really based on community input. I think people associate with the building. It has had community functions over the years, and people remember going there to pick up certain things or going there for certain functions. And based on community input, even during the North Beach Master Plan, there was a indication that the community had associations with this building, and many of them even thought it was historic. So, there was a period where they referenced it as a historic log cabin, which it's not. So this is all based on community input, we went in, and at the time in 2017, when the building was disassembled because it was structurally unstable, we went ahead and we had it in storage for many years, air-conditioned storage. It was cataloged and stored. At that point, I think about 45 or 50% of the building was not usable. It was really that far deteriorated. We've had the wood and the chimney in storage for years, spending a lot of money. And we recently, a couple of years ago, brought it onto the beach, where we purchased a storage container and we're storing it here because of the input that we've received from the community. In 2018 is when we received funding through the Geo Bond. And of course, this project was supposed to be slated for Tranche 2, for those who are familiar with the tranche system. And in 2024, we received direction again from the commission based on community input that we should accelerate this project. So based on the 2024 directive, we've moved ahead, selected a consultant, and here we are following the direction, following the analysis by the professionals, well-known professionals, as a part of, and their suggestion really is based on community input after several charrettes, not just for the specific project, but also for the North Beach Master Plan. Yeah.
Thank you. And then how do you envision the structure being used? And are there no other, I guess maybe this is, I'm not sure if this is your division or also the Parks Division, how else I know that we do have some parks that have, enclosed air-conditioned pavilions in them. How is this going to be used?
So
Here.
the
Or-
direction,
yeah.
the direction from the commission was as a community facility, where people could gather. I don't want to speak for the Parks Department because ultimately they will, but under that hat, they could do anything from, host small weddings to have small group activities for the kids, arts. It could be a great location, especially with the patio proposed on the rear, to have something for Halloween in the park. It offers so many opportunities for programming as a community function. I think one of the, so that we can reference what was passed yesterday, we're being referred to committee to discuss a possible use to include a food pantry. So there is a conversation going on about what the possible uses could be. But it's wide, it's really open, and the facility is being designed in a way where it could be used for any community use, based on its size.
Thank you.
What was the use of the prior log cabin? Was it similar?
It was similar. They had community functions. At one point, I think Parks had offices inside there, but we have recollection from people where they went there to pick up things from the Parks Department or from the city. So it was a community use.
And then why was this part of it moved from the west lots to the park? Because it was originally somewhere in the west lots, like what?
Yes, it was next to that masonry building that's still there, 8128. It was a recommendation from Dover Coal based on their analysis, right? And that analysis is based on the North Beach Master Plan. I go back to that. And then that suggestion was approved by the commission. So, we're acting based on those directions.
Yeah, well, as someone who frequents this park almost daily, I do like seeing that they're going to activate that part of the park itself. And I actually really like that it looks like a cabin or welcome center you see in a national park in like Colorado or like Montana or Wyoming. So it's kind of a little different than what you see in the rest of Miami. But I do have one question. The rear patio, has there been any idea or thought of using it for like a different type of function, like for like farmers markets or type of like not pavilion, but like a auditorium, like open air, like pavilion for like live theater or any type of other type of use rather than just a flat patio and not having other functions.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. What other functions do you see being used
You
for
can
or
you can
activate
create
for?
any events by the city. It could be. I mean, we have trees that offer shades during the morning and afternoon. So I mean, to be honest with you, sky is the limit. You have the area, and you can create any events that you like. It depends on what the city or the community wants to propose.
I think a great example, if you're familiar with Grinnell's Park, they have similar structures within their park, and they're venues for awesome weddings, for birthday parties, for possible farmers market, for youth group meetings. There's even a few of these structures within Grinnell's Park, stone and wood, that they actually use them for campsites. So it offers where they activate, bring the children out to nature, boys, the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. So there's so many possibilities for use.
Have you looked in? Will there be fencing around the patio itself, or?
It's not shown yet. It's not shown yet.
Okay.
The idea was for it to be open, and if you notice, they've actually maintained some of the existing trees so that, it's more of a natural extension, an extension of the natural area.
Okay.
Laura, did you have some?
Yeah, I have a few, I guess, questions and comments. I guess, Rogelio, I have a question. So are we, I guess, allowed, is it in our purview to talk about the interior because it's a public space? Or are we just solely commenting on the exterior?
Generally, the purview of this board is the exterior and the outward-facing design. You can certainly provide recommendations to them that they can consider, but generally the purview of this board is the exterior.
Okay, I just more have a question, I guess, on one of the interiors, just looking at any of the really interior renderings. Around the fireplace, you've changed the flooring from like chevron to just regular planks. Is there any significance to that? Is that like a old wood, or are you just wanting to change
It's
the
to
wood pattern?
actually enhance and actually emphasize the differences between the zones.
Okay.
So that's why we use a different material. It doesn't have to be chevron, it could be any material that the client wants or the community prefers. But it's just to kind of define the zones within the interior space.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I like it. I was just curious if that was, you were, reusing some wood from the prior site. I do like it. I was just curious about that. I love the slides 5 and 6 where you're thinking about repurposing wood from the prior cabin. I mean, I think if it's, I apologize, I don't, if it's not a condition in there already, I think that that's very important, and I think that that really will add a lot of character to the space, both interior or exterior. So I'd really emphasize that be thought through more, because I know these are just examples, but I didn't really see any of that in any of the renderings beyond the chimney, which I love as well. So I just really like to see that used more. I don't know if that's ADA compliant, but maybe you can put the, not the actual grab rail, but maybe you can put that along the railing for the ramp or something like that. I think that would add a lot of whimsy to the effect of having like a log cabin in the middle of the beach. What was my other comment? One comment on the exterior design, and maybe others will disagree with me. I think that this stone wall is a little intense, just in its massing, for just how much. I guess I'm looking at like slide 29. Maybe those could be columns of the stone, and then you break it up with more of an open sort of wall. It's very heavy, and I think the wood is already going to be very heavy. The wood structure is going to be already really heavy, so to have some just relief from just a full stone wall, that would be a suggestion from me.
Just sorry to interrupt. So the side elevations have the stone broken up by some rails. Is that
Yeah.
more or less what you're considering?
Yeah, maybe continuing that
Okay.
in the front. I think that to me it looks too heavy. But that's kind of I think the extent of my notes here.
Thank
But
you.
it's a very interesting project. Thank you. Thank you. Adam?
Yes. I have notes here. So I'm gonna start with the windows. What were the original windows in the original log cabin style?
It was actually a glass window, but the framing was wooden.
Was there a divided light? Was there anything specific to it?
No, there wasn't any mountings or anything. I'm actually seeing here if you see slide number 4.
It only looks closed up. That's why I can't really tell.
Yeah, like if you see the
They're all-
interior, there's one interior photo that shows the window.
Maybe also, was the intent to copy the original log cabin, or was it, I mean, is that sort of what you're?
Yeah, I'm sort of putting on my sort of historic hat or adaptive reuse here, right? So you've got, it looks like other fixed or sliders, and these are full pane, and these are probably aluminum. We know that they're impact glass. So I think it's important to look at the style of the window, right? I don't know, I couldn't tell from those photographs, right? Are those shades in front of it if it's a fixed piece? Wood, obviously they had wood frames. But is this trying to be more in the spirit of what a 1940s or 30s cabin would be with a divided light or something like that? I think that may bring character to this, if that is the point. So the windows was was one point. Another one, the siding. It's not clear what the siding is, what it's going to be, composite or wood. I see that. I have personally no idea what the composite log siding looks like. But if you're saying you have a container of old logs, maybe you could start to rip those down and use those as the siding and sandblast them and treat them, and maybe that could be. And then we're actually really using the material as the cladding for, I know the walls will be block, but that to me is like, is this thing gonna look like plasticky and not old and weather nicely, or is this gonna be something that feels, you know, I know the park is kind of new and it's, I don't know, I'm just gonna keep going with what I've got here. So, and the siding is on the inside, so maybe you don't have enough wood to do it all, so maybe you have to choose, we're gonna make the interior, because that wood is probably weathered and has water damage on both sides, but, and I don't know how much you have of it, but you could just do it on the interior. And then what is the mortar or the idea of what the mortar is between the logs, what color is that, how is that gonna be? I don't know, I feel like all the materials here sort of have to be looked at. Another point was the stone. So the stone seems to be originated from the chimney. That's what I imagine, because the original.
Correct.
Right, the only thing on the cabin was of stone was the chimney. So, and you have the chimney? Or you have the
Yes.
stones from the chimney?
We have the chimney, right?
We have the chimney. It
It's
is,
like-
it is intact.
It's intact, okay.
It's being braced.
Gotcha. So you've got an element here and you brought it to the exterior, which is nice. Where do the stones come from? What is the stone pattern? What is the mortar used for that? You've used it so much on the exterior that it is heavy and again, maybe not appropriate so much to be as appropriate as I thought your idea was maybe using the railings or something was better. But I want to know where stone came from. Is it from Florida? It's not from around here. And do you make sure you find the same field stone and make sure you're matching the mortar, like being specific about that? And then is there a cap on the wall? That wall just can't be like that. That might need a cap or something. So I feel like the stone wall needs and the front elevation for sure needs some investigation. And how the columns die into the stone wall was another piece. They just from the rendering I'm going on, I don't know, need proportion and of a base and what the cap is and how the wood sits on it, what the detail is. And again, I'm going overboard and I apologize. And yeah, the column bases, and let me just see what here. You talked about the interior, thank you. That was the biggest concern, was that this be used. I asked why the chevron, and then the trusses on the interior. What are, we're not supposed to be talking necessarily on them, but what are they? And are they of a period of a log cabin? Are they gonna be pine? Are they gonna be stained? Are they gonna be wood? They look exposed. And I think thought should be given to the interior so that, like, if you're walking into this, are we walking into the past, or is this just the nod to the old cabin? And we're trying to use some pieces of it, and the community wants something, okay, so let's put this thing together. Or we're really gonna make it something that's like, people are I'm imagining my kids going there, and then I want the first part to be the story about the cabin before they start talking about whatever else they're gonna be doing there, like an art class or something. Like, first is, welcome to the cabin, and the desk is made from milled logs, and the cladding is made from this, and these trees came from Florida pine, or, I'm making this all up, but, and then the rocks came from the river up north, and, right, and I don't know, maybe there was brick somewhere, I don't know, maybe the brick was part of this, and we're missing brick, so,
So I guess that,
Well, stop.
yes, I agree with those. So what was the intent? Was it to recreate the cabin? Was it to interpret the cabin?
Well, in reality, it was mostly to,
I think it was a,
Please
To
come step
recreate
forward.
it,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'd be
it's
curious
more
to
of an
know.
homage to the old cabin, and I think you can look at the chimney as a bit of the heart of the old cabin that we're bringing into the new cabin. It's about community, it's about a space they can share, but it's also an homage to the original. And the chimney, when you look at old buildings, the chimney is indeed the heart of buildings. So I think what we can look at is the chimney and maybe reuse the wood around the chimney from the original, even in the flooring, like you guys suggested in this design meeting. And that is the essence of this building. It just,
Yeah, no, I mean, and it wasn't a historical building for
it
it to
never
be.
had the opportunity
right.
to become. Yeah.
Yeah, so then let me, I mean, to answer Adam's questions, you know, what are happening with the beams? And I mean, what was your vision?
I think it's more to an homage to the construction style. Unfortunately, due to the wind loads and all of that, we can't necessarily utilize much of the structural elements from the original building.
Most of the wood is
Yeah.
not
yeah,
Yeah.
not usable.
reusable. So even if you wanted to recreate it,
We couldn't use it in any of the structural elements. That's the,
and so you're choosing different
yeah,
materials
and again, the chimney and historic construction is always, especially log cabins up north, when you think about these buildings, the fireplace is the heart because that's where the warmth of the home is. That's kind of where we were thinking with the,
And then what about the questions about the windows?
I think we could definitely look at maybe like a double hung style to get away from the more modern look that, I think that's where you're headed. And I agree, I think a double,
I'm bringing it up because.
but again, because of wind load, we couldn't necessarily, if we went wood, the
Yeah.
financial impact. would
No,
be-
I'm not suggesting that, but I'm saying that there's this, what is the story, right? Like, give the community a story and stick with it, and then the design pieces, build upon that for the design pieces, and it'll come together, right?
And I definitely
if the
think-
windows are part of it, and I'm not necessarily suggesting this should be a historical replica of a cabin from Yellowstone. But if that's what the intention is, then, you know, I think we said it last time.
Yeah,
like,
and I
lean
think,
in-
I
lean
think it is a
into
good idea to bring the education of the original building to the forefront. Maybe the first thing you see as you enter the cabin, like you suggested, makes a lot of sense.
You know, educating and again, the story and talking about it is like giving something just more than what's happening inside and what people are, the event is happening there. Like, you get further the story of it. It just makes everything a little more richer, and maybe there's a little plaque or something that talks about
Yeah,
this.
like
and so-
when you, I don't know if you've ever been to like Everglades City, they have a lot of historic structures in there, and they have always a plaque that explains the
Oh,
original
okay. I
structure.
haven't been there, but yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think maybe too, the general feeling that I'm getting is that the design is neither one nor the other. That it's in that, yeah, you need to sort of choose a perspective, because if you're gonna go more traditional log cabin in that way, an homage to what was there, and, you know, study those traditional forms, and I think that certainly the windows really will help with that. Even, I also noticed, because I kept comparing the original to the proposed, and, you know, there's the double doors in front, you know, that wouldn't really be in a log cabin. So I think maybe the direction is choose a direction, either do traditional log cabin or do something that's a little bit more modern, but there's not enough of either one in the current plan. Does that seem to be what,
I think that's a good way to
you
summarize
know?
it.
And yeah, because I really agree with Laura. Like, I love this idea of using the wood that you do have to add character. And, you know, yeah, it would be so cool if the furniture was made from these wood slats, and certainly there's enough, and that would be super unique, and that would be a great story. But yeah, you know, like, do you have trusses like this in wood cabins, I think the concept needs to be refined a bit. Does that seem
Yeah.
to be what? I would also add too, and this is more on the modern side, I would request that there at least be a water fountain. I think that that would be really helpful for people. There's not enough water fountains in the public facilities in the beach, so that's always. I do also, like the bathroom thing. I know that you brought it up. I personally think if you're going to have a place that have, I'm going to be honest, that the 2 cent, like I don't have a good sense of where I should have gone to the park and walked around before you. I regret that I didn't do that to know how far the bathroom is, but just as a convenience, especially for like the mom with the kid that's potty training, something to explore. I know it's sort of small, but I personally am throwing that out there. Also, in terms of the materials, again, you had mentioned the ipe wood. I always thought that was not a very sustainable wood. Is that
They're
is.
they're
They're
growing
doing-
faster.
Very
yeah.
durable, yeah.
they're doing? But I mean, like, are they destroying the forests to? No. Anyway, I was just also going to include. I know that a lot of the city buildings do have, a very sort of earth-friendly agenda to them, and to make sure that whatever materials you do choose are, especially because it's in a park, the most earth-friendly as possible. And yeah, I mean, I think that, this seems to be like it's going to be continued, which sounds like the project's going in that direction anyway. But when you do come back, to maybe have some samples, especially if you decide to go with a composite, because yeah, we've all seen composite wood done wrong. And yet to have samples of the mortar and the wood product or the wood or whatever you decide to use. I personally, don't want to burden, on the one hand, of course, real wood looks better and it's more authentic. I wouldn't want to burden our city with maintenance costs that are unreasonable, which I'm sure is why you're going back, that's something to consider. I also think too, that comes into play certainly with the windows too, with, the hurricane proofing of all of that. So, yeah.
I mean, to go off of that, like how we're saying pick a direction, I don't know, in my mind, like if it's better maintenance wise to keep them more, not modern, but more just homage, more like how you have it now currently, but then when you step inside, it's totally different. We're back in time, like Adam's saying, you're using all the old materials because here, you're not worried about the elements and things like that. I would personally be okay with kind of that shift happening inside if you need to keep it more Florida beach friendly on the outside. So, just to clarify, one direction maybe means one direction interior, one direction exterior, at least from my point of view.
Consider the durability after 30 years with kids running through it and everyone tearing it in heavy use. Like if it's original material, it's going to be corroded and decompose very quickly compared to using modern materials. So that's something that you have to.
Yeah, no, and I think we're all sensitive to that, and I would hope that the community input is also sensitive to that. There was something else I was going to say. So, and the thing is, with the stone wall, I sort of like the stone wall because it reminds me of the coral stone wall along the beach that is such an iconic Miami Beach thing. But I do agree. It would be great if it had a story, if it was a specific stone or something, related. I don't know how you could lighten up. Like, I think it does a good job of grounding the structure, but I don't know how you can make a stone wall seem less heavy. But I do agree with Adam's point that, the columns, how they interact with the wall should be. And actually, just from your drawings, I thought that the wall was, now I'm seeing the sort of the section encircling the structure is raised, like the deck is raised, and that's why you need a wall there to begin with so people don't fall. That was the point of having a wall there to begin with.
Yes.
Yeah, things to play with. But I love the concept of having the patio and the deck and your ideas of how it's going to be activated. That was great to hear. And yeah, it is nice. I don't know where there are other community centers in North Beach right now. I know that there's plans for, the parking lot on 72nd, but it would be great to have a park pavilion that's not just something, like, I think it's a nice, community. It's a nice structure for the community, so I personally, conceptually, I think it's a great idea to have something in there and just want to see. And I think that this can be really successful and noteworthy. And yeah, like I think it would be a great with a little bit of refinement. So yeah. Any other comments from the board or questions for us? Okay.
We're good? Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Does anybody want to make a motion
To continue.
Sure.
Is that?
Yeah, how do we manage that with, I mean, should we just make a motion and then whatever happens on the commission side, we'll just sort of dovetail it as
Correct.
needed?
I would just add, so the next meeting is October 23rd. There's the refinements that are being requested, do you think those could be made by October 23rd, or would you prefer to be continued to November?
No,
Or-
I think that could be made by
Okay,
then, yeah.
okay.
Okay, so,
So it's up to you. If you'd like to continue October 23rd, if anything changes, we'll update and revise the agenda.
I'm sorry,
but-
Rogelio, what's the deadline for submitting for that?
We typically like everything at least 2 to 3 weeks before, so it's
So
a
your deadline's
quick
October
turnaround.
2nd?
Just so we can get everything online, we have the ability to analyze it and update our staff reports and provide an update section to
And
the
I
board.
understood that, but I wanted
Yeah.
to make sure she understood that. So I think you need November?
Yeah, November will be okay.
Okay, so that would be November 20th.
and maybe you're doing this anyway, but I would also encourage you to follow along with the meetings and the other parts of this to give additional direction for the building.
We will.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll make a motion to continue to the November meeting.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed? No, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Okay. That is it. Again, thank you for coming back the second time. And we will see you in October.
Yes, the next meeting is October 23rd, so thank you for making the time to come to this special meeting to get the September agenda out of the way. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it. We'll see you next month.
Sounds great. Thank
All
you.
right. Please turn off your microphones, because we're going to be on the air for a little bit until...